A homeless man in Tokyo just finished his shift at a construction site. He walks back to his cardboard home in Shinjuku Station, takes a hot shower at a public bathhouse for $4, eats a fresh bento box for $3, and falls asleep in a clean, quiet underground passage where nobody will rob him, attack him, or even bother him. Meanwhile, a working American in Los Angeles is paying $2,800 a month for a studio apartment, drowning in medical debt, and cannot afford to see a dentist. So who is actually living better? The answer is going to make you uncomfortable. Here is the thing about homelessness in Japan. It barely exists anymore. In 2003, Japan counted over 25,000 homeless people across the country. By 2024, that number had dropped to roughly 2,800. Compare that to the United States, where over 650,000 people sleep without housing on any given night. Japan has about 40% of America's population, but less than half of 1% of its homeless population. That is not a statistical fluke. That is a completely different system. And the people who do remain homeless in Japan, they are not what you picture. Most are not mentally ill. Most are not addicted to anything. Many of them work full-time jobs. They have simply chosen or been pushed into a lifestyle that costs almost nothing in a country that does not punish you for being poor. Take a guy named Tatsuya, profiled in a Tokyo documentary a few years back. He's in his 60s. He sleeps under a bridge in Sumida. Every morning he wakes up at 5, folds his bedding, hides it behind a maintenance shed, and walks to a day labor dispatch office in Sanya. He works construction or warehouse jobs 4 days a week, and he makes about $90 per shift in cash. No questions asked. He spends maybe $400 a month total. He has no debt. He has no rent. He has health insurance through Japan's universal system that costs him almost nothing because his income is so low, and he saves the rest. The man has more disposable income than half the people reading this. Let that picture sit for a second. This isn't a sob story. This is a math problem. And the math in Japan works completely differently than the math in America. Here's where it gets interesting, because the gap isn't just income, it's the entire cost of being alive. In Japan, a homeless person can stay clean, fed, and warm for under $20 a day. In America, even with food stamps and shelter beds, the same level of dignity costs 3 or 4 times that. Why? It comes down to one thing Americans rarely think about: public infrastructure. Tokyo has over 1,000 public bathhouses called Shinto. For about $4, you get unlimited hot water, soap, shampoo, a sauna, sometimes a cold plunge, and clean towels for rent. Construction workers use them. Office workers use them. Homeless people use them. Nobody asks questions. Nobody calls security. It is just part of life. In Los Angeles, the only place a homeless person can shower is a shelter with a waiting list, a recreation center with a 2-hour time limit, or a friend's couch they do not have. Japan treats hygiene as infrastructure. America treats it as a privilege. The same logic applies to bathrooms. Tokyo alone has over 30,000 free public toilets, clean ones, heated seats in winter, toilet paper that is always stocked. The Shibuya Public Toilet Project actually commissioned famous architects to design beautiful public restrooms across the city. Meanwhile, San Francisco spent $1.7 million on a single public toilet that took years to build. New York City has fewer than 20 public restrooms for over 8 million people. If you have ever been homeless in America, you know the daily horror of trying to find somewhere to pee that will not get you arrested. Japanese convenience stores are open 24 hours. They sell fresh food for $2 or $3, let you use the bathroom without buying anything, and offer free Wi-Fi, free phone charging, and air conditioning. A homeless person can spend an entire winter day inside a Lawson or a 7-Eleven, and nobody will throw them out as long as they are not causing problems. Try that at a 7-Eleven in Houston and see how fast the cops show up, but the convenience store thing is just the surface. What really changes the equation is what happens when you actually get sick. A homeless man in Osaka who develops chest pain walks into a public hospital, gets an EKG, a chest x-ray, blood work, and a cardiology consult. His total bill, after Japan's national insurance covers 70%, comes to about $45. If he cannot pay that, the city's welfare office will cover it through the Livelihood Protection Program. The man walks out treated. The same scenario in America. An uninsured patient gets billed an average of $2,500 to $4,000 for the exact same workup. He probably will not pay it. The hospital probably will not collect. The bill goes to collections, destroys his credit, and the cost gets passed on to everyone else through higher prices. Everyone loses. Japan's healthcare system covers everyone, including the homeless. There are no exceptions. No one falls through the cracks. If you are on Japanese soil, you can get treated, and the treatment is not second-rate. Japan ranks among the top 5 countries in the world for life expectancy and cancer survival rates. Americans pay roughly $12,000 per person per year on healthcare. Japanese citizens pay about $4,500 per person per year for better outcomes. Even working Americans with insurance face deductibles, co-pays, and surprise bills that can bankrupt them. A 2019 study found that medical debt was the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States. In Japan, medical bankruptcy is almost unheard of. It is not a category that exists in the way it does here. So picture 2 men, one in Tokyo, one in Cleveland. Both develop diabetes. Both make about $30,000 a year. The Tokyo man pays maybe $600 annually for insurance and medication combined. The Cleveland man pays his employer sponsored premium of $3,000, plus a deductible of $2,000, plus co-pays on his insulin that can run $100 per refill. The Cleveland man, despite working a steady job, is one hospital visit away from losing his apartment. The Tokyo man, even if he loses his job and ends up sleeping in a park, will still get his insulin. Same disease, same income, completely different outcomes. This isn't because Japan is rich. America is much richer per capita. It's because Japan made different choices about what to fund, and those choices ripple through every part of life, including how you eat. The food situation in Japan changes everything you thought you knew about being broke. Walk into any Japanese supermarket 2 hours before closing and watch what happens. Workers go through every prepared food item: sushi, tempura, bento boxes, fresh salads, baked goods, and slap yellow discount stickers on them. 50% off, then 70% off. By the time the store closes, that $15 sushi platter costs $3. And it's not garbage, it's the same sushi a salaryman would buy at lunch. Japan has a cultural obsession with not wasting food, but they also have laws that make donating it complicated, so they discount it instead. Anyone with eyes and patience can eat like a king for almost nothing. Convenience stores do the same thing. Onigiri rice balls that are about to hit their expiration go for 50 cents. Pre-made meals get discounted twice a day. There is no shame in buying them. Office workers do it, students do it, homeless people do it. The system does not separate the desperate from the thrifty, it just serves both. In America, supermarkets throw food away rather than discount it deeply, partly because of liability fears, and partly because deep discounts cannibalize full-price sales. A homeless person dumpster diving behind a Whole Foods can get arrested for trespassing. The food still gets thrown out, but accessing it is a crime. The waste is the same, the dignity is not. There is another piece of this that nobody talks about. Tokyo's homeless population does not have to fight for survival the way American homeless populations do. Violent crime against homeless people in Japan is extremely rare. The streets are safe, even at 3 in the morning, even alone, even in the rough neighborhoods. A homeless person in Sanya, the closest thing Tokyo has to a Skid Row, can sleep in a doorway without worrying about being attacked. In San Francisco's Tenderloin, that same scenario could get you killed. Japan's overall homicide rate is about 1/10 of America's. Their assault rate is even lower. The country's deep cultural emphasis on social order means that even people at the bottom of the social ladder are not preyed upon the way they are here. And here is where it gets really interesting, because Japan's social safety net for the homeless works in ways most Americans do not even know are possible. The Japanese welfare system has something called seikatsu hogo, which means livelihood protection. If you are a Japanese citizen with no income and no assets, the government will pay your rent, give you a monthly stipend for food and necessities, cover your medical bills, and even pay for transportation. The total support package can run $1,300 a month in Tokyo, more than many working Americans take home after rent. The catch is that it is actually accessible. You apply at a local welfare office. You show your situation. You get approved within weeks. There is stigma, yes, but the system works. It catches people before they fall. In America, applying for housing assistance can take 3 to 7 years on a waiting list. Section 8, vouchers in many cities have closed waiting lists entirely, meaning you cannot even apply. The system is not designed to catch people. It is designed to ration scarce resources to a tiny fraction of those who need them. So instead of a safety net, you get a lottery, and most people lose. But some Japanese people experiencing homelessness choose not to use seikatsu hogo. They prefer the life they have. Think about that for a second. They have calculated that their current life, sleeping under bridges, working day labor, eating discount sushi, is preferable to applying for government assistance. And in many cases, they are right. Day laborers in Sanya can clear $900 a week in cash. They keep their independence. They keep their schedule. They keep their dignity. And they answer to nobody. A man named Hideki, who worked at Toyota for 20 years, lost his job during a restructuring in his 50s. He could not find work that matched his experience. He moved to Tokyo, and he started doing construction day labor. He is now 68 and still working 3 days a week. He sleeps in a cubicle hostel that costs $8 a night. He eats well. He watches baseball on his phone. He has friends in his neighborhood. He is healthier than he was at Toyota. When asked if he wants help getting back into housing, he says no. He likes this life better. That answer would be unimaginable in America, where homelessness is almost always a crisis to be escaped, not a lifestyle that can be sustainable. The reason it can be sustainable in Japan comes down to one thing American cities do not have: genuinely livable public space. Tokyo has thousands of small neighborhood parks, public squares, river walks, and covered shopping arcades. They are clean, they are maintained, they have benches that you can actually sit on, not the hostile architecture you see in American cities where armrests in the middle prevent lying down. Public spaces in Japan are designed to be used by everyone, including the homeless. You can sit on a park bench in Ueno for 6 hours, and nobody will move you along. You can read a book in a public library all day, and the librarian will smile at you. The country does not have a cultural compulsion to chase poor people out of public spaces. American cities, by contrast, have spent decades designing public spaces to be hostile to the homeless. Spikes on ledges, slanted benches, sprinklers timed to soak sleeping areas. Remove trash cans, close public bathrooms. The message is constant and clear: you are not welcome here. Even working Americans feel this. The shrinking of public space affects everyone. There are fewer places to just exist without spending money, fewer free zones, fewer commons, and this connects to something bigger about how the two countries think about housing itself. Japan treats housing as housing. America treats housing as an investment. That single difference explains so much. In Japan, the value of a house typically depreciates over time. Like a car, people build homes to live in, not to flip. Land has value, but the structure on top of it loses value year by year. This keeps housing prices stable and prevents the kind of speculative bubble that has pushed American rent into the stratosphere. A young Japanese couple can buy a small house in a suburb of Osaka for the equivalent of $200,000. That same purchasing power in suburban Los Angeles buys you a parking space. Tokyo, despite being one of the largest cities on Earth, has cheaper rent than San Francisco. A studio apartment in central Tokyo runs about $700 to $900 a month. The same apartment in San Francisco runs more than $3,000 a month. This is not because Tokyo is poorer, it is because Tokyo zones for housing, builds housing, allows housing to be built on small lots, and does not let neighborhood associations veto new construction. The country added about 800,000 new housing units last year in Tokyo alone. San Francisco added about 5,000. Multiply that out over decades, and you have your answer for why one city has a housing crisis and the other does not. When housing is cheap, falling out of housing is not catastrophic. A Japanese worker who loses a job can move to a smaller apartment, take a part-time gig, and recover. An American in the same situation faces eviction, a damaged credit score, first month and deposit requirements that can total $6,000 to get back into any apartment, and a job market that runs background checks on housing status. Once you fall in America, the system is designed to keep you down. Once you fall in Japan, the system has built-in cushions every step of the way. Now, none of this is to romanticize being homeless in Japan. The lifestyle is hard. Winters are cold. Day labor is brutal on aging bodies. Social isolation is real, especially as Japan's elderly population grows, and many homeless men are widowers or divorcees who have lost contact with family. There is loneliness, there is depression, there is the daily grind of folding your bedding before sunrise and finding a place to wash your face. Japan's homeless men have a life expectancy roughly 10 years shorter than the general population. It is not paradise. But here's the thing. Compare it honestly to working poverty in America. A single mother in Phoenix, working full-time at a warehouse for $16 an hour, brings home about $2,300 a month after taxes. Rent on a one-bedroom in Phoenix is now over $1,300. Utilities, $200. Car payment and insurance, $400. Groceries, $400. Childcare, $600. She is already negative $600 before she has bought a single thing for her kids. She has no savings. She has no health insurance because her employer does not offer it, and she makes too much for Medicaid. One emergency room visit ends her. One car breakdown ends her. Tatsuya, the man from Sumida, brings home about $1,400 a month. His rent is zero. His healthcare costs maybe $20 a month. His food costs $300. His total monthly expenses are under $400. He saves $1,000 a month in cash with no debt. He will never own a home. He will never go on vacation to Hawaii, but he sleeps soundly. He eats well. He has no creditors calling him. He has no rent due. He has no medical bills hanging over him. By any reasonable measure of daily well-being, his life is more secure than the warehouse worker in Phoenix. This is what is so uncomfortable about the comparison. It is not that being homeless in Japan is good. It is that being a working American is shockingly bad. The reference point has slipped. We have normalized a level of financial precarity that would shock a Japanese day laborer sleeping under a bridge, and the gap is getting wider. American real wages have grown about 1% annually for decades, while housing, healthcare, and education costs have grown 4 to 6% annually. Japanese wages have been flat for 30 years, but their cost of living has also been flat. A flat line and a flat line stay parallel. A flat line and a rising line eventually become unsustainable. That is where America is right now. The middle class is dropping into the same precarity that used to define poverty, while the homeless in Japan have stayed exactly where they are. Eventually, the lines cross. So what is the lesson here? It is not that we should aspire to homelessness with better infrastructure. It is that America's social contract has been quietly broken in ways most working people have not fully processed yet. Japan built a society where falling down does not mean dying. America built a society where staying up requires never falling at all. And when you require people to be perfect, eventually they break. The homeless man in Tokyo, who has more savings than the warehouse worker in Phoenix, is not a paradox. He is a warning. He is evidence that the systems we take for granted, the assumption that working hard equals security, has become a kind of national delusion. Other countries are showing us, in real time, that there are different ways to organize this. Cheaper housing, universal health care, functional public space, real safety nets. None of it is impossible. None of it is utopian. It is just choices America has not made. Tatsuya will wake up tomorrow at 5. He will fold his bedding. He will walk to the dispatch office. He will work 8 hours. He will go to the Shinto and get clean. He will buy discount sushi at the Family Mart. He will sleep under the bridge in Sumida, and he will not owe anyone a single yen. Most working Americans cannot say the same. That is not a failure of Japan's homeless. That is a failure of America's economy. And until we name it honestly, nothing changes.